Great. Want to welcome everybody today to this awesome panel discussion. First of all, happy Juneteenth here in America. I see my shirt. Our president just passed Juneteenth as a national holiday. And we're super, super excited about that happening here. Hopefully there's other things to come behind that. In America, we do a lot of symbolic stuff that doesn't change the narrative, right? But it's symbolic. And I'm not a big symbolic guy. I'm about change. What can we do to really change the conditions of African Americans here in this particular country? So this particular panel, super excited. We have folks from around the world based upon a film that was submitted this year called Is the UK Innocent? Love that. Black Lives Matter in the UK. And it's interesting because we don't hear a lot of press about what's happening in the UK until lately. I think there was some advocate there who got shot, and we heard about her. But other than that, there was not a whole lot going on. So what we want to do, this documentary is still on our platform. You can check it out. So we're going to go around the room and have everyone introduce themselves, where they're from, and what role did they play in this particular film. And we'll start with the director.
Hello, I am Jose Maria Martinelli. I'm the director. English is not my first language, so be patient. Now I moved temporarily to Spain, but my family live in the UK for 10 years. And the film was made last year and finished. It has finished now, just now. I'm South American, but living in the UK.
Awesome, awesome. Robin.
My name's Robin Walker. I'm known as the Black History Man. What I do for a living is I teach Black history and heritage. And my role in the film was I was one of the speakers. Awesome,
awesome. Harold.
My name is Harold. I am an anti-racist activist. I'm a socialist as well. I'm a member of a group called Stand Up to Racism. I mean, there are a number of campaigning groups who are putting the case, and actively, combating racism. And Stand Up to Racism is one of them. Every major trade union in the country is affiliated to it, and there are Stand Up to Racism groups up and down the country. Jose began filming the sort of local protests we had organized where I'm based in southeast London, and it was and still remains a tremendous source of inspiration, particularly when we look to the States. We see what's happening over there, and it fills us with horror and revulsion, but at the same time, because people are fighting back, that also spurs us on as well. So, keep on doing what you're doing, because it has and continues to have an effect on this side of the Atlantic.
That's great. That's great. And we'll come back and talk about that some more. Luciano.
Yes, I'm a filmmaker, film producer specifically from the UK. I was made aware of Jose's documentary when he entered it into our yearly film festival of Studio 7 Films, which is the production company that I co-own with my business partner. And obviously being one of the judges, I got to watch the documentary early, and I was blown away by the work that he'd done and the angle that he'd approached the topic with. And I immediately got in contact with him, and I asked him, how can I help get this out there? Being someone of mixed heritage, I'm half Italian and half Jamaican, via Nigeria originally.
Wow. And
obviously because of the transatlantic slave trade, that Nigerian heritage became Caribbean, Jamaican.
Yes.
So yes, and fast forward to today, my role has been trying to get the film screened firstly locally in the southwest of England, and we've thankfully managed to do that with the help of local trusts who have funded us to do an event screening, which is going to take place next month. And also I just want to do a little introduction for Shay Lee. She's been very supportive of me and my creative endeavors, and she wanted to obviously be a part of this experience and give some of her thoughts on the topics as well. So,
well, thank you for inviting her, because I think that gives a whole different perspective, because we have all these guys on here and we really want to hear a female's perspective as well in terms of what's happening at the UK. So if you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Shaylee. I'm an aspiring actor who's like very like, I forgot the word for it, passionate for Black Lives Matter and just anything to do with Black people. I'm not too aware of like, what's it, the film you guys are talking, like the Jose film, but it sounds interesting. I'm very active on Instagram and on YouTube as well. Like I act like different things, and I'm like, I make monologues that are passionate to do with BLM. But yeah, my friend Luciana invited me here, and
Good,
I just want to see.
Well, good. And we're going to ask some questions, you know, from your being a European Black woman, you know, there are you in London?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what your experience has been as well. So we'll talk about that. Then we have Earl Owens. Mr. Owens, I see you're there. And so if you can, once you get situated, I'll come back to you. I think Beverly probably contacted you at the last moment. Can you introduce yourself and talk about your role in terms of advocacy here in the Carolinas?
So again, my name is Earl Owens III. I work for Genesis Project One, which is a behavioral health agency here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am a certified peer support specialist, as well as a mental health technician and a community healthcare worker. So obviously.
I think we lost you. I think you froze up. You probably went to a bad location. So I'm gonna come back to you. Jose, talk about, you know, what motivated you to want to tell this story?
Living in the UK, especially in the UK, I live in an area that's called Lewisham, where it's full of the Black community. And I have a neighbor, Black, and she was a very nice person. And my neighbors, she suffered a lot of situation of racism. From being South American, I suffered racism. And also, is economic situation about the poor people in the world. And with the killing of George Floyd, it's just, I joined Stand Up to Racism.
Yeah.
And my plan, the beginning of the plan was to make a film about the street, because in Lewisham there are many streets that has the name of owners of slaves owners. Oh, and wow. I wanted to make a short video about that. And so a friend of mine said, join Stand Up to Racism. And then I joined Stand Up to Racism, and the film became another thing.
Wow.
It became what is now the film draws a parallel between the transatlantic slaving of African people and the situation today. Wow. It's just connecting, and capitalism, that all is connected.
Yeah.
Did I answer the question?
Yeah, you did. You really did. And, you know, it's interesting that it was really intentional to have this panel today, because we're here celebrating Juneteenth. I know you guys are not. So, you know, a lot of other filmmakers are out, you know, celebrating as well. But just to talk about what you just said, you know, just the liberation of slavery is why we're celebrating this. So I think it's very appropriate to have this. Now, it's very interesting you mentioned about the street names. Here in America, there's been major protests about moving statues. We're renaming schools. A lot is happening on renaming or re-identifying with those former slave owners, and statues are being torn down, schools are being renamed. So it's a lot happening here. And I think, Earl, you can probably chime in on that as well. We see a lot happening with changing the narrative about who we are honoring in this country. Earl, do you see any of that happening as well?
So yeah,
Sure.
and they are I guess you could say they're making an effort to appease the political format. But from my perspective, though, since George Floyd's murder, 960 something, people have been killed by the police since then.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's an alarming statistic for me, especially being a former gang member, being a person, of the streets per se, and now living on the other side, or a different approaching life from a different perspective, meaning that I am now involved in the healing process as opposed to being involved in the destructive process. So, so from my perspective, there's so much more that needs to be done. And I'm not talking about reparations. I'm not talking about, making us feel better about, the injustices that we survived. I'm talking about just making things fair and equal, so that Black minds, genius Black minds,
Yes,
can prosper and move forward and put their children in a situation so they can carry on a legacy, and we don't run the fear of another Black Wall Street incident.
right. And so saying that, I'm going to Harold, your organization, talk about some of the things that you guys have done in terms of advocating there in London to kind of change the climate for Black people there. Talk about your organization and some of the things you guys have done.
A couple of things, because that's a big question. So, for example, what we found, let me cut to the quick on COVID, for example, and the way that COVID has exposed in a very graphic way structural racism, that is the issues of employment, schooling, health, and the disproportionate number of Black deaths. And by Black, I mean Black British as well as Asian people from the Asian subcontinent. The disproportionate deaths is absolutely horrific.
Wow.
Other factors come to the fore as well. For example, the BBC reported in April 2019 that Black women were 3 times more likely to die in childbirth than their white counterparts. What this has thrown up is just how severely unbalanced the way society is in all spheres. I mean, people Breaking Bad it's a US drama series, but if you were to read the report which was commissioned by a Black Labour MP, David Lammy, and sorry, it was commissioned by David Cameron, a previous but one prime minister, British prime minister. He commissioned David Lammy to write a report into the experience of Black British people, their experience with regards to the justice system. And just to look at one section alone, youth offending, it almost reads like a script from Breaking Bad in terms of the numbers that are coming through now that are just being literally, it's like a conveyor belt from Black kids that have been thrown out of school, and then they're on the streets, and then there's a conveyor belt straight to the criminal justice system. So with regards to Stand Up to Racism in the UK, it works on a number of fronts. When it was formed in 2017, it was formed on the basis of what we call a united front, and that is we will unite with anybody around a set of core goals, and those core goals in this particular case being confronting racism, because certainly from the ends of let's say from certainly the last 20 years or so across Europe, there has been a rise not only in racism fascist organizations.
Mm.
In Greece, there was an organization called Golden Dawn. In Germany, in France, and for example, just 2 days ago, Reuters, the news organization, reported that Marine Le Pen, she's the leader of a group that used to be called Front National. I think they're called En Marche. They changed their name anyway, but an openly racist organization with fascist members in them. They are set next year to challenge, and who knows, it might be successful from their point of view, for the presidency of France. So in 2017, right, Stand Up to Racism, right, we are going to unite around a core set of goals, and that is confronting racism. That will be on the streets, you know, so when people like, and you can Google him, Tommy Robinson, sets to, you know, to stir up, you know, race hates, we will confront it. And it's important to confront them as well, because they get their confidence from being able to dominate the streets. And then it works on another level as well, on a cultural level. I don't know if you're a great follower of what we call football, what you would call soccer, but at the moment we have the European Championships taking place, and outside the World Cup, in terms of football, the European Championships are, if you like, the biggest stage for football. The England players, who are, you know, they're black, they're white, you know, they've all been taking the knee, you know, took the lead from Colin Kaepernick, you know, and that's why it's really important that you guys keep doing what you're doing, because it's a great inspiration for us over here.
That's good. Right. Let me ask Shay. Hold that thought. So Shay, so as you hearing Harold talk about the situations happening just across the spectrum. I know, Harold, you could talk about probably every part of society there. You know, there are some issues and folks advocating against change. Shay, is a young Black woman. What kind of things, you know, I just read where there was a Black Lives Matter activist there in the UK who got shot. What has been your experience as a Black female there?
I think a Black activist did get shot, like, and it was a Black woman as well. I can't remember her name though, but like I recently like shared it on my Instagram. Like, I think as a Black woman, she's not gonna get as much like the recognition that she deserves, like if she was a Black man, because like we do live from a female's perspective, like we do live in a patriarchal society where, like, I'm not saying it to like be sexist or anything, but it's like Black men, like Black women were like kind of like bottom barrel. Like Malcolm X said, like the most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. So like Black women were not gonna get like as much attention and much recognition as like we deserve. So one of the reasons why I post, and I feel really bad that I don't remember her name, like she's not going to get the recognition she deserves. So I was like, no, let me put this on, because I know like she's not going to get the attention she would get as a man. Like with like a bit with Breonna Taylor as well, like of course like she got the recognition like she got, but like her killers are still out there. George Floyd's killer like only just got arrested like last month.
Yeah, her name is Sasha Johnson, I believe. Sasha Johnson. Yeah. And it's interesting because so my question to you is, as a Black female, what level has there been any form of racism or discrimination have you ever experienced in the UK?
Oh well, I think just all the time, like I deal with like silent racism, because I go to like a school that's in a white area. So of course I get the stares. If I wear my hair out or in a puff, like I have people like looking at me like this. I deal with like a few, like I think this is a microaggression, but like teachers, like if I have my hair out, they like just want to touch it, and it's just annoying, and I don't really like it. One time the deputy head at my school, she said nigger, and she's a white Irish woman, and like she said it twice in our assembly, like once when I was in year 9 and another time where I was in year 10. But like the second time when she said it, like obviously like we're at age where like we're gonna speak up. Oh, all the teachers told us to be quiet, like even the black teachers there, and we were like, what? Like, why are you telling us to be quiet? And this white woman is saying nigger.
Right.
Like, I don't even like saying it myself, because like
Right.
the history of that word, the history of that word is just so painful, and you would say it to an assembly of girls. Wow. And of black girls as well. So like, I think, sorry, so to answer your question, like, I guess the racism that I face is silent racism and just microaggressions here and there.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. Robin, talk about the historical reference to this film. Being, were you born in London?
Yes, I was, yeah.
Okay, good. So you have a great background, and plus you're a scholar. Share the historical reference to the film and kind of what you have seen take place up to the point why this film is necessary.
London is a center in the history and evolution of the mass enslavement of Africans, the colonization of Africans, the colonization of African Americans, even, because places like Virginia began as a British colony. So a lot of evil emanates from London, and this is where I was born and raised. So putting that context is very, very important. And what I do for a living is I am an educator. So my whole thing is to get the knowledge of Black history and heritage out there. For adults, for young people, to put it in book form, to put education materials out there, to make sure that this kind of history and heritage is something that gets as far into the mainstream as we're able to get it.
Yeah. So Luciano, tell me what caused you saw this, and what was it that spoke to your heart or your spirit to say, I need to get behind this film to promote this? What was it in this film that really sparked a fire for you?
It was definitely the educational aspect and the historical aspect. For me personally, I believe that the only way we're going to have a chance at fighting racism is to educate ignorant people. Yeah. In my experience with the racism I faced, and yeah, I understand that might be a bit surprising being a little bit lighter in tone, but in reality, to a lot of white people, any sort of coloration is Black. And as I've got older, it has decreased, or it's become more silent, like Shaili said, and less obvious. But being a young person, especially when I grow my hair out and I do have an afro, people did use the N-word to me in the past as well. There's a lot of things that people don't understand about history and about Black culture because it is left out at school, especially here over in the UK. It's very washed over. It's, they'll only talk about a little bit about slavery and slavery and civil rights and things like that. And they don't go back further than that and tell you where Black people actually originate from, what their culture actually was, what they actually contributed to the world. That's good. Mathematics, astrology, medicine, the list goes on. And the way we're sort of, it's portrayed to us is almost like those are Western inventions. They've only existed in the past few hundred years when really they're thousands of years old, some of these concepts.
Absolutely.
So for me, that unique angle is what I thought Jose and the team did so well, and what I thought needed to get out there if we were going to have any chance in affecting some real change. It's like you said earlier, like the symbolism is all well and good, but if there's nothing to back that up, then I don't see it lasting longer than, the current issue is present, for example.
Yeah, we don't need a feel-good change. We need tangible changes. Agreed. And America is very good at creating feel-good changes, or redirecting resources to one particular organization that is a smokescreen behind another organization. So it's very interesting. Jose, how long was the production from, let's say this, from Did you start shooting, or did you have a script for this? And how long was the production from pre-production to post?
It started with the killing of George Floyd, and I was filming the protests, the activities on the street in London of the Stand Up to Racism, and then the interviews. The interviews, they finished. The last one, the last part of Harold was, I think, on March, this March 2021. And so from June to 2021, filming and editing at the same time, asking for some people to do another thing, like fixing some image, and another person from South America doing sound.
Oh, I see.
And yes. Yes, for me, it's very important. The film is just Robin, Harold, they are making the film.
Yeah.
It's just I'm putting some techniques. I'm also living in this world, in this society where we live. And that's, as I think it's Robin, he say in the film, or Harold, they say that capitalism started to work. It get strong with the labor in the plantation of the Black community. They were kidnapped from Africa. The European got rich. That's the world we live now.
Yeah.
And the education.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So, and we just had something happen here where we had a nonprofit organization called you can help me out, Earl. It was called the Ladder Plantation, I think. And these guys were doing the Juneteenth event, reenacting some kind of Confederate, some kind of situation that was crazy. Our county, we shut them down. This is a probably multi-million-dollar organization that was shut down just like that here in Charlotte. So you can Google and read that. It's very, very interesting. Earl, do you know more about that situation?
So, yeah, I just saw them yesterday too. So it hasn't been advertised. I don't think that they had a very good turnout. I mean, me myself personally, I just think that that's just, further insult, to the type of information that our young people should be receiving regarding, what actually happened, and the appropriate view that we should get from, what happened to us 500 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's still happening now. And we're going to have to continue to challenge, those narratives and redirect the narrative to the most accurate account of what has happened to us and who we are now.
Good. So let me ask you guys, Harold, well, there's some statistics here, and Robin, you can chime in as well, where it talks about you guys have Black women are twice as likely as white women, and Black men are 3.3 times as likely as white men to die from COVID-19. And Harold, you talked about that earlier. Talk about here in America, we've had experiments, the Tuskegee experiment. There's been experiments here where the medical healthcare industry used Blacks as guinea pigs. My question is, what level of faith, based upon history, do you guys have in the healthcare system there? And what kind of situations have come out that could influence that decision?
Well, let me answer that question like this. And I'll refer back to COVID. because Britain is being held up around the world as being a great success story when it comes to vaccination, against COVID. And on one level, that is definitely the case, because if you look at vaccination rates, they are significantly high. Certainly for the first jab, and we're currently going through, vaccinations for a follow-up second jab as well. However, there have been spikes of infection rates, and it's not accurate, but nevertheless, it's a reason. People have been making a case. Let me put it like that, of drawing parallels between where the infection rates have risen, and they've tried to draw parallels with ethnicity, if you like. I would say this: there is quite a lot of skepticism amongst the ethnic population in Britain. I'm not saying it's widespread, because, in fact, the majority of my Black friends and colleagues, have been vaccinated, but nevertheless, there's a lot of suspicion, precisely because of the sort of Tuskegee experimentation you've just referred to. And so it's there, the suspicion is there that, why all of a sudden, after a short period of time, following this, this vaccination, why all of a sudden should we bring ourselves forward and be vaccinated? I wouldn't say it's by all means widespread, because it isn't, but nevertheless, the suspicion is there, and I get it. I understand that.
Good. Robin, can you chime in?
Let me just show some statistics on other aspects of the systematic nature of discrimination. An article appeared on 16th of August 2020 in The Guardian that says BAME children 3 times more likely to have a taser weapon used on them by the police. BAME, that is Black and minority ethnic children. A study appeared 12th of December 2017 in London's leading newspaper, The Evening Standard, which says police more likely to find drugs on white people during stop and search report finds, but Black people are 8 times more likely to be searched, according to the analysis. The disparity has been described as troubling. Another article appeared in the Guardian newspaper. Teachers' implicit bias against Black students starts in preschool, study finds. Another article appeared. This was in relation to Britain, but it appeared in the Huffington Post. Black and minority students could lose out if grades are based on predicted results, says Huffington Post, 24th of May 2020, because it was found that Black children were under predicted by their school teachers. Another article came out. Undercover job hunters reveal huge race bias in Britain's workplaces. Civil servants created false identities to send CVs to hundreds of employers in sting to uncover discrimination. Another article came out called the Nuffield Study, and what the Nuffield Study showed was the numbers of pregnant women that died in childbirth, and they found that with Black women in Britain, it was 5 times more than national average. So when it comes to the kinds of systemic problems, the health aspects of it is one side of it, but the sociological aspects are another side of it.
Yeah, interesting. And we know we can look at those same statistics here, America, other places where we are the minority. So it's very interesting. I think the project really does give a voice to places other than America. And I believe that this project will also help other folks in pockets around the world be able to speak up and empower them. Sometimes we think we just have to exist in this environment, that we don't have a voice. And so that's why I love what we do here at the Charlotte Black Film Festival. And I love what you guys did with the project to create an opportunity to speak out and encourage others to do the same thing. Going to go a little light here a little bit because we talked about Black Lives Matter part of the film, and then the other part is celebrating Black lives. And I'm going to go to Luciano and Shay on this one. Celebrating Black lives. And you guys probably know, hear more than we have here. Was the celebration of Prince Harry to Meghan Markle, was that a celebration there in your country? Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Celebrated. So talk to me.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Do you want to go first, Shay?
Oh, no, you can go first. Okay.
Okay. From in my opinion and my perspective, it's definitely been two camps. There is, I'd say, a small majority of people who are forward thinking and could see that the royal family needed to be brought forward. They are still quite stuck in old traditions, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity for them to come bang right up to date, in having a multicultural family within the royal monarchy. Since things have developed, however, so as the relationship progressed, the marriage, the child, and then with them sort of splitting off, it seems there's been this underlying undercurrent of racists who maybe were hoping for some sort of issues to arise from this relationship and have used that to pounce onto this situation and change the narrative or make the narrative fit their own agendas, which is that, Meghan is almost like, a bad seed who is going to, break apart this wonderful establishment that we have, which is completely not the case at all. So yeah, I would definitely say it's a very divisive situation, and I hope it can progress and move forward in the best way. With them sort of naming the child after the Queen herself, maybe that's some sort of way to bridge the gap again and have some sort of resolution. But I think for me, what it's really done is highlight how behind the times elements of Britain's establishment, government, and monarchy still are, no matter how much they pretend to be current and up to date. Like you said, it's all symbolic. And if we look at the roots, they're still very damaged. Yeah. So there's a lot of work to be done there.
Good.
Yeah.
Shay?
I just think with the royal family, in their eyes, I don't think they see themselves as racist, but they just don't want someone of color in their family. Because when, if you watch Meghan and Oprah's interview, Meghan stated that before Archie was born, in the coming months, they questioned how dark he's going to be, and it's why are you questioning how dark a baby's going to be when Archie came out, he looked exactly like Harry. He looked very close to white. So it's almost so as Black women and people who like me and darker than me, it's if you're concerned about Archie, then what am I then? And it really shows, and that's who we're paying our taxes to. That's who we see as the royal family. And with Meghan as well, I just feel so bad for this woman, because she just has to deal with she still deals with racist and just ignorant comments up to this day, when now she's living her best life with her daughter and her husband, and she has to deal with people like Piers Morgan, who just always just coming after her, everything.
Yes.
that man just doesn't leave her alone. And then just ignorant comments Meghan ruined the family, and it's no, she did it. It's fun because it's funny how she's saying it. She's a mixed race woman. Her mom's Black, her dad's white. So imagine if Harry brought a Black woman, someone like me or darker, into the family. That wouldn't even run. I don't think the royal family would even let that happen.
Yes.
But
yeah. So let me ask you guys this question, and this is for everyone that lives there. Tell me your honest feelings when you saw the wedding, because that was, I saw the wedding from here. And like I said, wow.
I
Talk about
felt
that,
really
Jay.
bad. I felt really bad for her mum because her mum, well, I don't think her dad didn't even come because her dad's just racist. But her mum, she was just like sitting by herself, left on the side, and like I even remember the wedding day as well. Like,
And I was
yeah, it
thinking
was like a
about
couple.
the
Yeah.
multicultural wedding. That's the part I want you to talk about. How did you feel when you saw here's this black pastor? He had these singers. I mean, I don't know if that ever happened in the
So
royal wedding before. Maybe you guys can tell me. But was
I
that the
don't.
first time it was integrated?
Mm,
To,
I don't know whether they tried to have like a black part or just because she's half black. I don't know whether like members of the family spoke beforehand, like, oh, let's have a black pastor so that she can fit in. Like, I don't know, but like the wedding itself, I mean, apart from that, I was like, okay, cool. But like, I just felt really bad for her mum because her mum's obviously black, and then there's the royal family on one side, and the mum's just sitting by herself. And I was like, you guys are gonna be like family, like maybe you should sit together. But it just clearly shows. I was like, that's a red flag.
yeah, it's
That's
interesting.
a red flag.
Luciano.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, initially I did think it was a good sign. I thought this was a sign of the change that maybe, could happen and we could bring the monarchy forward. Again, it seems just symbolic now looking back.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to see it. Obviously, being of mixed heritage, I've gone to both types of churches, one that's more traditional English, Christian or Protestant, if you want to say that, and the other one, which is more like, for example, I went to an Ethiopian Christian church, which is very much like what the wedding that they put on, which was, singing, dancing, praising. And yeah, I think for a lot of people here, they might not have been used to that. And they may have felt a little bit, put off. But after it was all said and done, it did seem to have a good initial reaction. But again, as things have gone on, maybe they weren't really 100% committed to that, and it was like, oh, if we give her this wedding and allow them to do it that way, then that'll, appease them and quiet them down. And it didn't have that effect. And I think that's shown the true colors of, everything behind it.
Yes. How about you, Harold? Any impact, any influence, anything, any thoughts about it?
I'm afraid, I know you're smiling, Tommy, but I'm afraid you watched the wedding from your side of the Atlantic, but over here, I did not watch it because it just had no interest for me whatsoever. I think the statistics that Robin quoted previously, I think to me, that is, they are illuminating. That gives you a framework, a backdrop against which you can analyze. That's the backdrop on which it tells you everything you need to know about what life is like in Britain. So when it came to this magical fairy tale wedding, I'm afraid I was just not tuned into it at all. However, what the wedding has subsequently shown is just how much, not just racism, but jealousy, backbiting, all these stories that have been leaked about how Meghan's daughter, how they didn't get permission from the Queen, and these stories are being drip fed, and you have to ask yourself, if you're interested, that is, well, where did they get? They always quote a source from the palace.
Yes.
They've got planted journalists, the well-known ones like Penny Jr., who writes for the Daily Mail, who will always be relied on to churn these stories out. Prince William's wife, that is Kate Middleton, she's a Duchess of Cambridge. There's jealousy there. She will leak and undermine stuff about Meghan. So to me, it's not a surprise. And the reason why they're all ganging up on her is quite clearly race, without a shadow of doubt. If you was to live in the UK for just a month and you were just to scour the newspapers and follow the media coverage, it's clearly race.
Wow.
It's a subtle voice, but it's clearly race. And that's why, like I said, the stats that Robin outlined earlier tell you what you need to know, what life is like in this country if you're a minority.
Good, good. Jose, let me ask you a question. How many film festivals did you submit this film to?
Many, like 20, something like that.
Okay. How did you find the Charlotte Black Film Festival?
Very good. I like this Zoom meeting. They were in contact with me. I saw the films. They are in the online festival.
Yes.
And I think it's perfect for always.
Yes. Good.
But it's perfect for this time. But for always is sorry for my English.
Good, good. Awesome. Well, we appreciate you.
Can I say one thing? Can I say one thing?
Yes.
In the film, Robin speak about a little bit about the monarchy, and he say about how the monarchy got a lot of money about the transatlantic slaving of African people.
Oh, wow.
So I want to say that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's interesting when you know it. And then you have an attitude, so it's very interesting, and anytime you're outside of the UK, you get what the media controls, right? That's why I'm so thankful to have this conversation, because you guys are there. You know what's happening there. You know the attitudes, the decisions, and things like that. Let's do this. Let's go around the room, because we're gonna close down. But let me know, as a result of this film or your advocacy work or what you're doing, how can you promote the message in the film, promote it, and then what are you willing to do to change the narrative, right? And we'll start with you, Robin.
For me, it's about education. I'm an educator, so I work for an education charity. And our charity, we deal with adult education, we deal with youth education, we write curriculum materials. Right now, there's a discourse going on in Britain about the need to decolonize the curriculum, and we at the forefront of that. So I see the film as being part of that, if you like, decolonization agenda. And what I propose to do is just keep doing what I'm doing, which is putting education materials out there that challenges the status quo and brings more equality and justice to the discourse.
Yeah, we have something going on right now. Earl, you probably can comment on this. They're trying to change the curriculum to give, and I can't think of the name, but to acknowledge that whites are superior. Earl, help me with that, because my head's been into the festival. Talk about that. What's happening? What are they trying to do here?
So basically what they want to do is introduce a curriculum to the education department that shows, the indifference and the hierarchy of not only education, the social dynamic of how they would like their children to be raised, all the way to the advantages of gainful and equitable employment. So, and this is all being funneled through the educational system. They just denied, I forgot her name, but they just denied her tenureship at Duke, because she wants to promote the 1619 project, which is education that's desperately needed, to help young people shape, how they're going to live the rest of their lives. They don't want that, because then that would mean that they would have to acknowledge the disparities, the inequities, and the lack of information and opportunities that are actually being promoted in our communities. And I could just say one more thing. Yes. I work directly with the population of people that are mostly impacted by injustices, not just racial injustice, but medical injustice, social injustice, mental health injustice, economical injustice. So, this is really deeply rooted. And you know, if it were up to me, I'd do a film solely on that.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. I want to piggyback on what Robin said with that comment as well. Shay, how about yourself? How can you promote this message and the film message in the film, and what are you willing to do after today?
I'm willing. I'm willing to like just talk, have more conversations about it, promote it on social media, because that's what basically everyone's like. That's how we connect as a world, like social media. I said have more like be more like willing to speak up, especially in schools like mine that are just like and other schools as well. Educate people who are younger than me and older than me who like may not experience racism, or just like are not as like my like, if you get what I mean. Yeah, I'd just be willing to talk about it more and just don't be shy and speak up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. Luciano.
Yeah. Well, this is something that I've always been passionate about. And a little bit of a plug here. My film production studio has recently done a film called Boy in the Corner, and it's actually about the issue of knife crime in the UK, and grooming gangs and county lines drug dealing and things like that. There has been films like this in the past, and usually they sort of piggyback off of Black culture, and you know, with grime music and Black celebrities and things like that. All of them, I think bar none, have ended up glamorizing the subject, the violence and things like that, and end up portraying young Black people in a bad light. Now, our film, we tried to switch that completely on its head, and instead we wanted to show why these young people are forced into these situations, and the fact that there are, and this is true because it's based on real characters in our community, there are people, Black people specifically, who are mentors, who work with young people in the community and are trying to lift young ethnic minority kids up and show them that there's, you know, a better way. It's not easy. You are going to have it harder than your, you know, your white or lighter counterparts.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you should give up. And if you are willing to look for it, there are people who will help you. And that's what I'm trying to promote in my films, is positive Black role models, positive Black characters, even if they're not perfect. It's showing the reasons why people are in these situations, instead of just putting it out there and glamorizing it and maybe having a negative impact, effect.
And I like that. That's the part you never see. You know, they just, you know, for the most part. Earl, tell us real quick about your organization and what you guys do.
So Genesis Project One is a behavioral health agency that focuses on, of course, behavioral health, which we offer outpatient therapy and peer support. We address chronic homelessness, of course, behavioral health, and community needs. So we're kind of like a conduit to resources and services that aren't advertised, but are readily available, you know, to the community. Because of my background, my focus is on persons that are returning to the community from incarceration, chronic homelessness, you know, and basically women that have struggled with domestic violence and also chronic homelessness. Our organization is now moving into the higher levels of care, but of course, because we are a Black-owned community, we are experiencing the subtleness of racism. You know, not out front, but you know, through contracting and you know, things like that. You know,
grant process.
Yes. So these are all little things that they do to just slow us down. You know, even though we provided well over 300,000 COVID tests during the pandemic.
Wow.
We have provided close to 100,000 vaccinations.
Oh, wow.
Throughout this pandemic. So we are in fact a frontline agency for our community.
That's good. Good. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Harold, go ahead and talk about, give me a few things you guys have currently that's happening, and what do you see the future in terms of your organization, and what are you guys doing to kind of change the narrative there?
Okay, no particular order. When a year ago, when George Floyd was murdered, there was widespread solidarity support in the UK. You should be able to find the images online, but if you don't and you need to, by all means, get in touch with me via Jose. There are some fantastic pictures. In particular, firefighters across the country in Britain took the knee. It was superb.
Wow.
So in terms of what we plan to do and continue to do, solidarity work, because to me, that is a major key, right? I support everything what the previous speakers have talked about with regards to education. I think that's vital. And with regards to cultural matters as well, because we want that to continue. And just as an aside, I don't know if this is actually, if it actually made the cut in Jose's film, but it certainly might be, if like on the B-roll. As part of our protest throughout last summer, we had a folk singer called Jim Radford. He died last year.
Oh.
But Jim was a brilliant folk singer. And one of the songs, well, he sang two songs. One was called the Stephen Lawrence song. And Stephen Lawrence was a teenager who was murdered by white racists. It was a big court case 25 years or so ago. But another song that Jim sang was called Freedom. And Jim told me a little bit about the history to that. And he said it was a song that African-American soldiers would sing at the end of the Civil War. And
wow.
The way Jim sang it, if it hasn't made Jose's film, I've got it on my phone. It will send chills up your spine. It's superb.
Wow.
So the other thing which I hope we continue to do, as well as the education, is culturally as well, put in the anti-racism case as well. And finally, if I can make a plea for your organization, the Charlotte Film Festival, if there is some way you could possibly persuade Colin Kaepernick to make a visit to the UK, and that we Stand to Racism, we could talk, we could show him around, we could host it, and if either yourself or one of your colleagues, that is an idea for a project to that, because we are living in incredible times and they need to be documented.
That's good. That's good. One of the things is that we send out something, and I'll send it to you again, Jose. Anyone that was part of your production that passed away from the beginning to today, that was part of it, we want to honor them at our Red Carpet Vision Awards on the 26th. So we ask you to send us either a clip, a photo of them and the role they played in your particular film. So Harold, if he was part of that, even though if he didn't make the cut, he was part of that. We would love to have that. Freedom Piece would be perfect to showcase there. And we will be going virtual with the awards program as well. Jose, tell me what you have going on now. I mean, you're this great film. I think it really is one of those things that is going to spark a lot of interest, a lot of advocacy. What do you have going on now? What new projects do you have going on?
The project is this project at the moment.
Okay.
Is now.
And it's just about promoting this project, letting more and more people hear.
Yes, as more people can watch it, it's better.
Yeah, good.
Because it's trying to give a message.
Yeah, it's a strong message. And for us, our stories, the Charlotte Black Film Festival, it doesn't matter your race. You just have to tell the story from the African diaspora. That's what it's all about. It has to be our stories, but it can be told from the lens of a variety of different people and races. So before we go, I'm going to ask you guys to do one thing for me. We're celebrating Juneteenth here, and this is such an empowerment session. So if you guys can hold this up for 3 seconds, you mentioned Colin. We're going to do a Black Power fist to end this segment. You know what I mean? It is now Juneteenth. Come on, Jose, lift that hand up there. We're going to do Black Power. Let everybody know that we're celebrating Juneteenth and that freedom is going to happen and that change will come. Once again, thank you guys for being part of this panel discussion. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for this
Thank you.
opportunity.
Thank you.
It's a
Okay.
pleasure meeting all of you.
Likewise.